Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Wright, and I am the director of this movie you're about to watch, Darkest Hour. This is my 7th feature film and my 5th film for working title, who are a British-based production company run by Eric Fellner and Tim Bevan. Originally, I hadn't planned to have any footage at the beginning of the movie, like this, found footage. But one of the issues with the movie is that the main antagonist, Adolf Hitler, doesn't really appear in the film. And so I wanted to make sure that the Germans, and in fact Adolf himself, had a presence at the beginning of the film. The entire film takes place over a 4-week period and was really inspired by this discovery that Anthony McCarten, the writer, made, that 3 of the greatest speeches in political history were written by Winston Churchill in a 4-week period. I always work hard to try and deliver an opening shot that sums up as much as possible the main drive of the narrative. There are a lot of overhead shots like this opening one throughout the film, and we'll talk more about those later. The camera pulls back here to reveal the 2 sides of that warring house, the Labour Party on one side and the Conservative Party on the left-hand side. And the issue here is who will be the next leader of the country, because after years of incompetence, Neville Chamberlain is being thrown out. That's Clement Attlee, the leader of the Labour Party, who went on to become Prime Minister after the war. And here we find Ronald Pickup as Neville Chamberlain.
And leaving aside whether he is fit to be a leader in peacetime, he has proved himself incapable of leading us in wartime.
So that's the nub of the story at this point. Who will be the next leader? That's Stephen Dillane playing Lord Halifax. And so I like the idea of establishing these characters without hearing them speak, really.
Are willing to enter into a grand coalition with the ruling Conservative.
The set here is a set built in a studio. Unfortunately, we couldn't get permission to film in the real House of Commons, so this is a set. I was trying to create a kind of atmosphere of complete mayhem in this scene, and these scenes are often really about the supporting artists as much as they are about the actors themselves.
Where's Winston?
Ensuring his fingerprints are not on them.
That's the lovely Samuel West playing Eden, and that's our first glimpse of Churchill, just his hat.
As the opposition
I tried to delay the arrival of Churchill in the movie for as long as possible, just having little sort of signs and symbols of him, hearing about other people's opinions of him before we actually see the man himself.
I will step down tomorrow, but I did want my own party as a gentleman I most respect.
Sadly, John Hurt was originally supposed to play Chamberlain and had a terrible accident before we started, was in hospital and then passed away during filming, so I was never able to work with him, which was a great shame, but luckily Ronald Pickup came in and did a sterling job for us.
Then who?
But on whomever the task may fall, he shall be required to...
These are kind of the Tory plotters, the high members of the Conservative Party who are trying to manipulate the situation. And they all disapprove of Churchill. One of the main themes of the film is doubt, and we start with everyone's doubting of Churchill.
No, this is totally absurd.
And now we see what Churchill has for breakfast. eggs, bacon, whiskey and white wine. Breakfast of champions.
Stretches out his hand and says, "Gimme." You need to anticipate what he wants.
And here we meet
Paper or cloth.
Elizabeth Leighton for the first time, Lily James.
Selfish to resign time like this. Do you think they'll take me to Downing Street?
It was important for me that we had some strong female voices in the movie.
So it's almost impossible to catch everything.
And also some normal people, working class people. And so we see Churchill first through her eyes. We're about to enter his bedroom. We've heard a lot about Churchill. And the first thing we're going to do is hear his voice before we ever see him. He lights a match, which is a kind of little reference to Robbie Turner's death in Atonement for me.
To the French ambassador.
And then the curtains open to reveal, rather theatrically, this pink splodge that will change the world.
Holland alone. Come on, telegram. Holland alone.
So here we have Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill. Possibly the greatest honour of my career has been to work with Gary, and he was a great hero of mine throughout my teens, and so to finally work with him was really an amazing thing. We spent 6 months developing that makeup. The prosthetics were very kind of carefully developed over a long period of time. He's wearing prosthetics basically from the cheek down and a nose piece.
Holland and Belgium.
And we tried to find a balance between him looking as much like Churchill as possible, but also allowing access to Gary's performance.
The situation is still very complex.
He spent 4 hours in makeup every morning before starting shooting, and an hour getting out of makeup in the evenings. I actually didn't see Gary for 3 months, because by the time I got there, he was already in hair and makeup, and by the time I left, he was getting out of hair and makeup.
Randolph, quickly. No, last night they said I might be made Prime Minister today, but that was yesterday. Let's see what happens today. Yeah? Let's see what Neville does today.
Those are Churchill's real cigars. They're the Romeo and Juliet
No, thank you, my boy.
Cuban cigar.
Yes, keep back.
And unfortunately for Gary, he was smoking about 12 of them a day while we were filming.
To General Ismay.
Ah, General, isn't it? Yeah, sorry. Bit of this, will you?
It was important to kind of create a light atmosphere at the beginning of the movie. It gets darker later, but I wanted the start of the movie to have a kind of energy and lightness to it. Churchill was very funny, and I wanted to get that humour across. He used humour as a defence mechanism.
I can't hear myself think. Read it back.
He was incredibly exacting with his secretaries. He'd often have like 2 of them on rotation 24 hours a day, so that he could always call up and make a request or have a secretary there to take a memo.
Last sentence.
Elizabeth Leighton is a real character, but also a conflation of many secretaries. But the real Elizabeth Leighton wrote a book about her experiences working with Churchill.
One, many, four.
Many preparations to be made.
Single space. Were you not briefed, young ladies?
That's completely true, that he demanded that all his early drafts of the speeches be written double-spaced so he could make notes in the margins. And if he didn't get his way, then he would be extremely rude, I suppose. He could be very rude.
He shouted at you.
And so here's the divine Kristen Scott Thomas as Clementine Churchill.
I think you were nervous, and he has a knack for drawing out the very worst in those who are trying to help him the most.
No, it's not him, it's me. He's
He's a man, like any other.
I think the cat under the bed was Gary's idea, actually. I think that's something he came up with.
My darling,
I try and, plan
I feel you really ought to know.
everything as much as possible, but also to stay open to ideas that other people come up with on the day. And I think that was an idea that Gary came up with on the day.
Rough and sarcastic and overbearing.
I tried to keep the shooting style in this film as simple and as economical as possible. So this scene was only covered in this wide shot with a slight track in here.
Darling, you are on the brink of having tremendous...
I tried not to just fall back into the easy option of shooting close-up coverage, but get it right in the wide shot.
I want others to love and respect you.
The past few films of mine have been quite baroque in their style, so I wanted to do something far more stripped back. This shot was done months after the initial shooting in the summer. The majority of the film was shot in November, December 2016 and January 2017. So, although the film is set in May, we were unable to do any kind of real exteriors with lush vegetation or anything. But we did do this in another scene where we just got a little bit of exterior air.
The German army invaded Holland and Belgium early this morning by land.
There's a telegram.
And by landings from parachutes.
So this is the day that Germany invaded Belgium and Holland.
An appeal for help has been made to the Allied governments.
And it was on this day
From the palace.
that he was invited to the palace to go and be asked to fulfill the role of British Prime Minister. Up to this moment, it wasn't a done deal at all. There was talk, one way or another. Chamberlain nearly backed out and said, actually, I'm going to stay on and not resign. And then finally, Chamberlain was persuaded that his only option was to resign.
Thank you. Yes?
Leighton.
You're shaking.
So are you.
You from excitement, I from terror. You've wanted this your entire
Bruno
life.
Dubanel shot the film, and great French cinematographer did Amélie and Inside Llewellyn Davis and a lot of Tim Burton's movies. And I really like the boldness of his lighting,
Your sense of humour.
how dark Clementine is there, and then placing her silhouette against that spot of light on the bookshelves.
You what?
Yourself.
I'm interested in character, who I am, who you are, how do I know who I am, and the idea that there are many versions of myself, and so this moment I kind of conceived as being a moment of talking about that idea.
Strong. Oh well, lead on, Macduff. When youth departs, may wisdom prove enough.
That's a Shakespeare quote. He was one of the most erudite prime ministers, I think, of all time, and himself wrote more words than Shakespeare. This shot and then one that happens towards the end of the movie are kind of mirrors of each other, and is really about sort of a love of the British people, or a love of people, not necessarily just the British people, but a love of humanity. And yet Churchill is isolated from them, he's cut off from them, which is why you can't hear them. He can see them, but he can't hear them at this point. And that's one of the main narrative arcs of the movie, this relationship he has with the people.
Hardly seems like there's a war on at all.
You know I've never ridden a bus.
Sir?
I've never queued for bread. I believe I can boil an egg, but only because I've seen it done. The only time I tried
So,
was in the underground.
we couldn't get permission to shoot at the real Buckingham Palace, so the foreground arch is Somerset House with a big green screen behind it, and then what's created of the Mall there behind is all CG.
Why not, Halifax? I figure.
And there's the great Ben Mendelsohn as George VI.
Perhaps Halifax wanted Halifax.
Then why have I been forced to send for Churchill?
Well, because he is the only member of our party.
Casting George was quite a challenge because of the shadow cast by Colin Firth. So I thought quite a lot about who should play George. And in the end, I happened to notice one day how Ben actually looked really like him. And I quite like the fact that Ben is actually Australian and so doesn't come with the kind of British baggage regarding the monarchy.
He was right about Hitler.
Well, even a stopped clock is right twice a day.
The room here, I can't remember now which house this room is in, but it's up in Yorkshire. And we shot a lot of the film up in Yorkshire so as to avoid the kind of over-renovation that happens in London and the south. A slight kind of texture of grubbiness is what we wanted. And this room, you know, is where the king spends most of his time, so it needed a kind of lived-in feeling. I was quite happy with this scene. I really like this scene. Again, it's the details that do it for me, as it often is, and those details come from kind of research.
Mr. Churchill, I believe you know why I have asked you here today.
When we discovered, for instance, that the incoming Prime Minister was required to kiss the ring of the King, that kind of opened up the scene for me. The awkwardness. I love British awkwardness around social etiquette and how to behave with each other. The lack of ease. And I imagine Churchill's lips to be quite wet at that point. And so...
Well, that was quite easy.
We had the idea of him wiping his hand on the back of his jacket, which seemed to speak about their relationship or the King's attitude towards Churchill.
Once a week, I'm afraid. How are you for Mondays?
I tried to get Ben not to labour the stutter too much. You know, it's not the King's speech and it's not a story point.
Is that permissible?
No, but necessary. I work late.
And perhaps lunchtime.
Lunch? Mondays?
It was a nice moment when I was in rehearsals with Ben and Gary, and the idea that the King does not bow back but receives bows. At first, when we were rehearsing, Ben always used to bow back, and then it occurred to me that the King never bows, or bows only to God, but his job is to receive the bows of others. And that seemed to kind of unlock the relationship for Ben. It's often those little details that really you find and really unlock stuff for people and for yourself. That is the real Downing Street. We are the only production to have ever been allowed to shoot outside the real Downing Street. Only Gary was allowed to go in and out of that door. And then this door and this interior space is up in Yorkshire, so there's a cut there between locations. For the eagle eye, you'll notice that actually those windows are nothing like the windows on the exterior shot.
You only have to meet him once a week.
Oh, but that's like saying you only have to have your tooth pulled once a week.
Composition.
Downing Street's a funny place. It's kind of like student accommodation in the sense that people stay there for 4 years and then they move on. So it has a kind of sense of inconsistency, and the various prime ministers throughout history have kind of left bits and pieces behind that they didn't want to take with them, or...
Oh, and that sleep in sheep's clothing, yeah?
It's not a tradition like it is, I believe, in the White House, where each First Lady is, you know, going to redecorate the entire place.
I heard that before you were asked, they offered it to Lord Halifax.
No, I doubt that. Halifax would never turn it down. He's the fourth son of an earl. Fourth sons turn nothing down.
I wish the position had come your way in better time, sir. You have an enormous task ahead of you.
I only hope it's not too late. I'm very much afraid it is. But we can only do our best. Hip hip! Hooray! Pip? Hooray! Heavens, what a frightful...
So they're Churchill's family. He had 3 daughters and 1 son. And the redhead is supposedly his daughter-in-law, married to Randolph, his son.
Some of you may not know that on the eve of our marriage...
Mary is the daughter sat next to him, and is really the only one who led a happy, successful life. The other children had rather tragic lives.
But the real reason for my wintry feet was that I knew, even then...
Jacqueline Duran did the costumes on the movie, and I think she and I were both very excited to have an opportunity to dress a woman in this film. Most of the costumes are just, men's suits and not that interesting, so we went all out with Clementine.
We all did, you see.
It's just little symbols, little looks to express the troubles the various children went through later in life.
Proof that our small sacrifice was for a far, far greater good. I give you your father, my beloved husband, the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister.
Here's to not buggering it up.
Not buggering it up.
Belgium was a ploy.
So this is Westminster Hall, which is one of the most beautiful pieces of architecture in Britain. It dates back to the Middle Ages. It's where every monarch has been laid out in rest, and it's where Churchill himself was laid out as well. And then here we are back on the set at Leavesden Studios. You have to choose your battles when directing a movie, and this was one battle I chose to fight, to be able to build this set and to fill it with 600 people. I thought by filling it with real people rather than kind of doing digital crowd replication, it would help Gary, by giving him an audience, his delivery would be to the people rather than just to empty seats.
Keep quiet.
The Prime Minister.
Here we go. Mr. Speaker, on Friday evening last...
It's a score by Dario Marianelli, who I first met when we worked together on Pride and Prejudice. He did the score for Atonement and Anna Karenina, The Soloist, and this one. I often get him to write music prior to the shooting, so he'll write some themes that are based on the script. I think I was playing this while we were filming some of these montage shots to remind myself of the pace of the sequence.
Formed.
A war cabinet has been formed.
It's a shot that reminds me a little bit of Atonement.
Representing, with the opposition parties, the unity of the nation. Read.
The 3 party leaders have agreed to serve either in the War Cabinet
or in high executive office. With this agreement in place, I now...
So given that we were shooting in December and January, we had to find a way of representing the heat of the time. And so Bruno and I came up with this light aesthetic, which was about very, very dark shadows, and then these spots of hot, hot light coming through windows. Flaring or rather blooming the highlights. That's not really Gary's legs.
That we are in the preliminary stage of one of the greatest battles in history, and that many preparations have to be made here at home. Sir, I take up my task with buoyancy and hope, and say to the House, as I have said to those who have joined the government, I have
nothing to offer
but blood, toil, tears, and sweat.
Gary was sending me recordings of himself doing this speech and the last speech months before we shot, and he'd record them on his phone and then send them to me, and I'd comment and But he had these speeches under his belt way before he turned up in London to start shooting. In fact, he had the whole script under his belt. I mean, he spent 4 months preparing for the role, and he would pace up and down his house or his guest house in LA and practice for months and months and months.
Against a monstrous tyranny, never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalogue of human crime. That is our policy. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word. Victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be.
I'm amazed that makeup didn't need any visual effect touch-ups, but it's all in camera. And partly I'm amazed because of the lighting, because it's very, very hard, unforgiving light. I was never quite happy with this shot. It never quite delivered the intention that I was hoping it would.
Consent. We have to start somewhere. Snap.
Our policy is to wage war.
This scene is the other one that was shot way after the principal photography. We shot this in the summer. And actually, this scene was shot at Chartwell, which was Churchill's house, in the Rose Garden at Churchill's house, and then we added the Westminster Tower later in post-production. I like that moment where he doesn't quite feel, the idea that the British are awkward about the notion of having cancer. It doesn't actually offer any condolences or anything. He just says, "Oh, Neville." Like, cancer is kind of unsightly.
The party couldn't countenance that. You're the chairman, for heaven's sake. He'd be finished.
And you would agree to be Prime Minister?
Well,
actually, this sequence was shot by Seamus McGarvey. Bruno wasn't available. He was on to the next film, and my old friend Seamus McGarvey came and shot this scene for me.
On record.
I beg your pardon?
You must declare on record his refusal to engage in peace talks. We must have it in writing.
We're actually entering the real Home Office here, which isn't as blackened and dirty as that. The buildings are real, but we added CGI dirt. Everything's far too clean now, and so we needed to spend a bit of time and money dirtifying everything. It's kind of one of the, that's a detail that I find really important. This building is my old art school. That is Central St Martin's, where I went to art school, so that was nice to be back there. We also used it as our production offices.
Morning.
Thank you, sir.
And actually, they're now entering a cupboard. There we go. And now we're on the War Room set, which was built at Leavesden Studios.
For the PM's use only. Sleeping quarters for when you miss the last
Kind of, in its detailing and texture, identical to the real war rooms, but the layout is a little bit different. This layout is a bit more circular.
Indiscretion in conversation or any other form within or without these rooms regarding what happens here is a statutory offence, punishable by up to 2 years' imprisonment with hard labour.
My first AD was a guy called Dan Channing Williams, and he was served beautifully by the great Sarah Mooney as second AD. And she is a master with supporting artists and choreography and utterly devoted to the job.
Ladies.
Love you, Mooney.
Here's you.
Big shout out.
Belgium and Holland may fall at any hour.
And the French?
The entire French Ninth Army, some 200,000 men.
This was a difficult little scene because it required so much exposition. I was never quite happy with the coverage in this scene.
For our troops?
The Luftwaffe control the skies. We simply don't have enough planes to challenge them. In fact, I
tried to be very kind of, stripped back but also I tried to be as clear as possible. I really wanted the film to be clear for an audience, especially in terms of all the war stuff.
We come under blistering air attack.
Their speed is devastating.
Panzer tanks moving rapidly westward through the center.
Oh, well, they will have to pause for fuel supplies.
This is not the last war, sir. Their tanks can stop for fuel at a petrol station.
Petrol station?
Ironically, Churchill was one of the people who kind of was involved in the invention of the tank.
Collectively, we are looking at the collapse of Western Europe in the next few days.
Should the public be told?
Not yet. First, we must rouse our old friends to an heroic resistance. France must be saved.
So these shots that start with Churchill looking at a map and then go to these high-angle, wide shots, as I said, are a kind of motif that go throughout the film. And here I justify it by making it his point of view from an aeroplane. And then once I've made that justification, the audience are more likely to buy them as we get further into the movie. For those overhead shots, the camera was on a cable being pulled along over the heads of all those supporting artists. This is my assistant Michael Wilson's favourite shot, so I always think of him when I see this. Big shout out.
Ce n'est pas la première fois que nous faisons face à une crise ensemble.
Perhaps in English, Prime Minister.
I think this was Gary's first day of shooting. So
we will survive this one.
we were all very anxious to see how it would go and how his makeup would stand up on camera, and very relieved when the day was a success.
You must. Vouloir contre-attaquer. Il le faut. I do not believe that this Panzer breakthrough is a real invasion.
Not a real invasion.
No, as long as their tank crews are...
I was, at this point, given it was my first day with Gary, I was more confident in the profile than I was in front-on close-ups, which is why he's shot entirely in profile in this scene.
A real invasion.
You kind of get to know the character as you shoot, understand what works with that face and what doesn't. That's true of all faces, not just ones that have so much prosthetics work done.
I love to listen to him. But we must never take his advice. Has 100 ideas a day. 4 of them are good. The other 96, downright dangerous.
His father was the same. Great orator, but...
Until he lost his mind to syphilis.
How nations suffer for the sins of their fathers.
My opinion, at this critical juncture for the Empire, we have a drunkard at the wheel.
Wakes with a scotch.
This was originally written as a montage, and I tried to incorporate the different elements into one shot, and then go into the montage here.
Conservative who defects to the Liberals, lobs grenades at us for 10 years, then flops Conservative again, as it bloody suits him. Sorry, but he stands for one thing, himself.
It's Brian Pettifer, who I've worked with a couple of times now.
Replace him?
And this relationship between Halifax and George was kind of pivotal in this period of history. They were very close, and in fact, George even gave Halifax a key to the gardens at Buckingham Palace so that he could walk in the gardens. Churchill on the lavatory, which amused me.
You need to reply to the Lord Privy Seal.
In a way, a lot of the film is about taking Churchill down off the plinth, taking him down and looking at him eye to eye and understanding his flaws and his failures, and also, therefore, perhaps even more so, appreciating his triumphs and his achievements.
So, don't spare me, Anthony. Be frank.
I don't think so.
You don't think so, what?
You're suggesting we're somehow winning.
And here we're building to the second speech of the film,
No, but it will inspire.
which was a speech he gave over the radio to the British public, in which he kind of misled them.
Spirit of feeling,
He claimed that we were doing better than we really were,
I caution against it.
and that had consequences for him.
Cicero. Cicero! Fortune isn't worse than something. Well, it's not there. I left it here. Clemmy! Cat! Clemmy!
We cannot pay our bills.
My copy of Cicero. Did you show it?
Did you hear what I said?
What was that?
We're broke.
Oh, out! Out! Come on, everybody out!
I dare not write another cheque.
This relationship with Clemmy is kind of an idealised version of a marriage to me.
You are insufferable!
The kind of sharing tenderness, the care,
Is there anything else?
and the kindness.
My love for you.
I wanted to show a relationship that was real and passionate and loving between two people in, I guess, relatively advanced years, although Kristen's not so advanced, but, you know.
Speechless.
Well, I must have been very beautiful to achieve that miraculous effect.
4 years until we saw each other again.
Went by in an absolute flash.
You didn't lack for admirers. Your fidel serviteur in Sydney Peel.
Brilliant man.
Lionel Earl.
I like the fact that she had all these lovers beforehand, and that she was really quite a catch for Churchill. I mean, you know. They referred to each other as pig and cat. She would call him pig and he would call her cat. And their letters, which were published after their deaths by their daughter Mary Soame, they always signed off as pig and cat. And he drew a little drawing of a cat.
Will you hear me read my speech for tonight's broadcast?
Prime Minister, the situation in France. Is it true we're in full retreat? Is France lost?
Spanish ships I cannot see, for they are out of sight.
He had a lisp, Churchill, and was very self-conscious about it, and so he'd practice these silly exercises like Spanish ships I could not see.
Into the microphone. So, if you're ready, on the stroke of 9, the red light will come on and
That's the lovely Pip Torrens there on the right, who I've worked with a number of times, and who actually I first worked with when I was about 13 in a play in the West End. I used to do a bit of acting, and he was in that, along with Colin Firth. A play called Another Country.
Are we ready?
One moment.
We are going live.
One moment!
I was trying to get across the idea that as he was about to deliver the speech, he began to become doubtful about whether he was doing the right thing. But it was too late.
What?
The idea of the red light, I think, only came a couple of days or a day before we were to shoot this scene. I was trying to, as I said before, be less kind of baroque or less theatrical in my realisation of this film. And so whenever I had quite a bold idea like the red light, I had to question it a lot.
As Prime Minister.
Another kind of theatrical idea, I suppose, in the film was this thing of moving through walls, which we're about to do.
Of our allies, and above all, of the cause of freedom. A tremendous battle is raging in France and Flanders. The Germans, by a remarkable combination of air bombing and heavily armored tanks.
But I think what I was trying to create in these war rooms was a sense of claustrophobia. And moving through the walls allowed me to shoot in these very small spaces. And then give me some movement as well.
However, I have invincible confidence in the French army and its leaders. Only a very small part of that splendid army.
I like the use of kind of non-realistic sound in this sequence. And the idea that as we're seeing his mouth there close up, you're hearing his voice very, very distant.
To rescue not only
like that light bouncing off the glass-top table onto the wall behind there.
and most soul-destroying tyranny which has ever darkened and stained.
And then again, I always love this thing of cutting from very close shots to extreme wide shots, so from his eyes to this overhead view of Winston as God, really, controlling mere mortals' lives. And originally I'd thought about that as a wide shot cutting to this extreme close-up of the dead soldier's eye there. But I kind of thought that maybe it would be more shocking if it just, the landscape of the earth dissolved into the landscape of the human figure.
Well done, sir.
And here Churchill, having made the speech, wonders whether it was really the correct course to have taken. Again, the kind of detailed sounds taking on greater significance. There is apparently these tunnels that go between the war rooms and Downing Street, but because of security risks, no one is allowed to actually talk about them. I like this shot. This was a little elevator set we built on the studio stage, and then we're able to operate. You know, because so much of the film is in these extremely small spaces, in that moment I decided to make a wide shot out of a small space and therefore create a kind of atmosphere of claustrophobia and seclusion.
I thought you did marvellously.
The last 10 years, I was the only one who told them the truth. Until tonight. There is no advance. It's a shambles. We're in full retreat.
Clementine was this involved in his politics and his policies. She was probably more liberal than Churchill and often guided him into a more compassionate view. She'd experienced a lot of poverty at an early age.
Have you seen this?
And so she had a kind of, a different view of life.
What's so funny?
Prime Minister, sir.
Yes, what is it?
Again, I really enjoyed these single shots, like this one moving from this space across to this space.
I'm not sure if you know this, but
I tried to only cut when I thought it was really, really necessary, rather than cutting for the sake of it,
gesture means something else.
but to create a kind of internal rhythm within each shot.
I was captured by the Boer. I spent
The frame moves without the need for a cut.
Sir.
Up your bum.
I also shot with a lot wider lenses than I'm used to using. Bruno is sort of more of a fan of a wide angle lens, and so I kind of embraced that idea and experimented with using much wider lenses than normal, which I really enjoyed. It placed the characters far more in the context of their surroundings as well.
I heard you on the wireless.
Was I comprehensible?
The public need to be led, not misled, not left to work it out for themselves.
Right. Will that be all, Your Majesty?
Yes. Good day, Prime Minister.
Again, there's this idea of doubt, that the king is doubting Churchill here.
I believe I have just received a royal rap on the knuckles.
And so now this is kind of the centerpiece of the film. On the page, it was in script form. This scene was actually 10 pages long, and involved 17 men sat round a table talking, which felt inherently cinematic, really, when viewing it like that. But that's one of the reasons why I always do 4 weeks of rehearsals with all the actors present, so I can work out the kind of geography of the scene, the emotional and geography of the scene, so that I have a very specific point of view. I have a very specific plan of how the scene should be shot and cut, so that I know where the close-ups are, so that I know where the pauses are, so I know where the high points are and the low points are.
Nismay, what have you got for us?
As it stands, I cannot...
And therefore I'm able to try and
our forces out in time.
create something with a very definite point of view and something hopefully more cinematic. But it was a challenge, this one.
What's our next step? Anyone? Come on, speak!
We still have a garrison at Calais, 25 miles to the west.
How many men do we have there?
4,000, more or less.
Why didn't you say so? Yes. Then we have them go east, engage with the German columns moving on Dunkirk. Buy us some time. Draw the Nazi focus away from Dunkirk whilst we execute a maritime evacuation of our forces. Is that possible?
It would mean a huge sacrifice.
4,000 young men to save 300,000. Under whose command is the Calais garrison?
Brigadier Nicholson.
Very well. Tell Nicholson it is of the greatest importance.
What I tried to do with all of these scenes was
draw the enemy's tanks,
create a kind of ambivalence for the audience, so that at times
well, and to fight on.
They agree with what Churchill's saying, and then at times they agree with what Halifax is saying as well. Halifax's position is not, at the time, I mean, with the hindsight of history, it's easy to see that Churchill was right. But at the time, he was interested in saving innocent lives.
Prime Minister.
And therefore, surely that's correct, or that's a point of view that we can certainly identify with.
When there is an available alternative.
What alternative?
Italy has offered to mediate peace talks between ourselves and Germany.
That's the new news that's the new news of this film. The idea that Churchill came this close to making a peace deal with Hitler.
The whip hand. Do you really think he would honour our liberty and independence?
It would be in his interest to do so, sir, because
the only thing to do is to show.
I really enjoy it when actors overlap each other, overlap their dialogue. And that's about finding the right rhythms, and in rehearsals, that's kind of really important.
Take full responsibility.
Really?
Really? Yes, sir. It is the reason I sit in this chair.
Well, surely before you take full responsibility for the deaths of 4,000 men, you'd wish to consider every available avenue.
What is this?
What is your mind on the principle of peace talk, sir?
There's probably more
For example,
underscoring in this film, in other words, music that's playing whilst the characters are talking, than anything I've done before. But I really enjoyed this piece of music and this scene. It has a kind of almost a Sergio Leone effect.
I should like to speak to Viscount Halifax and Mr. Chamberlain. Alone. Issue the order to the Calais garrison. Confirm it has been done. Dismissed. Look, you two, come on, out. Bridges, you, come on, hop it! Out, out!
Very unnatural move for him to turn round on his left shoulder there. But sometimes those little unnatural moves for the actor work for camera. I was quite inspired by a lot of modern minimalism for the score of this movie. Composers like Max Richter and Niels Fram, great German composer. I enjoy this close-up of Gary. That look there.
Winston, we're facing certain defeat on land, the annihilation of our army, and imminent invasion. We must be rational.
We are a seagoing nation.
I like the idea that Halifax tries to get him to be rational, and Churchill immediately goes off into romantic rhetoric about the Bronze Age and so on. Totally irrational.
First to reach this island, Edward.
Where men, women, and children whom we will have failed despicably in our duty of protection.
And it's a real threat, you know, this idea that if they wipe out the English army, then they're going to invade Britain.
Furthermore, once France
And it's kind of shocking that they didn't, really.
They will then have the French fleet as well. What is to stop Herr Hitler then? Winston, words, words, words alone. If you will not permit any talk of peace, then I shall be forced.
Might we not allow Edward?
What Halifax doesn't understand at that moment is the power of words, and that actually words will be the thing that save both Churchill and the country.
Find out that
To a large extent, the film is about words and the power of words to shape and change history. So this is true. Winston had what everyone thought was a toilet, a WC, and actually was a telephone room with a direct line to the White House.
Mr. President.
And the conversation here is true also.
How are you?
Fine, fine. How are you, Prime Minister?
Oh, I'm in fine fettle. Fine fettle. Listen, I'm telephoning about your Navy ships. If you could loan us just 50 older destroyers, or even 40 would do.
Well, I did ask around, but just not possible.
Originally, I'd conceived this scene to cut between Churchill and an actor playing FDR, possibly in the Rose Garden or something. And then the closer I got to shooting the scene, the more I realised what a performance Gary was giving, and I became interested in just playing the scene as one close-up on him, never letting up, never giving him an out, but increasing further and further the pressure on Churchill. And I gave myself the option of shooting FDR afterwards if it didn't work. But once we shot this close-up, I kind of cancelled that shoot and knew that I could just play it entirely on Churchill. I like the fact that the camera doesn't really move in this shot, that Gary leans into his own close-up. Often I think it's good if you can get the actor to change the frame rather than the camera to change the frame. That's David Strathern on the other end of the phone.
Mr. President. I mean to say...
We are.
I've always wanted to work with David ever since seeing Good Night and Good Luck, so I was delighted to be able to have him come into the studio and record the other end of the phone call.
Send across a team of horses from Canada, nothing motorized, then you could pull them over the border yourself. How does that sound?
Horses? You did say a team of horses.
Well, I guess you could push them yourself. Damn things have wheels. Up to you. We could do that, Prime Minister.
And I enjoyed this cut that's coming up as well.
Prime Minister?
Again, it's that idea of, you know, you can shoot a wide shot, you just shoot off the set. And somehow we accept it as an audience. It certainly makes a statement that he is cornered and isolated and the walls are moving in on him. Lovely bit of sound design, that, by Craig Berkey, who's been the sound designer on everything I've done since The Soloist. Originally, there were a couple of other scenes between this and the next one, and we cut them, and I needed something to bridge the two scenes. I needed something to give him the idea of the boats to Dunkirk. So that shot of the ring was actually taken from a different scene. It wasn't shot on that location, but it worked, and so I could build this idea of him having the inspiration.
Yes, Prime Minister. Put me through to Admiral Ramsey.
Again, a cut from extreme close-up to extreme wide.
Admiral Ramsey, it's the Prime Minister.
Bertie! Bertie, I hope I didn't wake you.
Not at all. I was just reading the Bible.
Exodus. Listen, Bertie, we need to evacuate our boys. The Navy is saying that with 1 cruiser and 6 destroyers and with a Luftwaffe controlling the skies above, we'll be lucky to get 10% out. I want you to order an assembly of boats.
Boats?
Yes, civilian boats, as many as you can get your hands on. Longliest clipper, finest Jim Paris. Anyone with a pleasure craft bigger than 30 foot that can get to France.
Winston used to have 100 ideas a day, and a lot of the time his secretaries and generals and so on would have to try and explain to him that 99% of those ideas weren't any good and wouldn't work. I mean, they were crazy, crazy ideas he used to come out with. His brain worked at 500 miles an hour, and people found it very difficult to keep up with him. He was kind of manic. But occasionally, one of those ideas was really, really good. And obviously, the evacuation of Dunkirk with civilian boats was one of those really, really good ideas.
Prime Minister, are you... Prime Minister, would you like... Prime Minister...
do men is drinking during the day?
Practice.
I tried moving this scene around. It was in different places in the edit. I can't actually remember whether this is where the scene was in the script.
I have been asked if plans should be drawn to evacuate
I
myself.
have a feeling not. But it's probably one of the only bits of restructuring we did.
The opinion of our Prime Minister.
Well, my opinion would be that you must do what you feel is right for yourself, your family, and the nation. But your survival is paramount. Prime Ministers, well, we seem to come and go at an astonishing rate.
Your position in Parliament, I am told, is not strong.
My party resents the way Chamberlain was pushed aside, and many others doubt me. They want Halifax still, but why get rid of the organ grinder and replace him with the monkey?
Lord Halifax is a close personal friend of mine.
I am unwanted.
I was like cutting to a wide shot in an awkward pause.
I'm wanted.
Perhaps it's because you scared.
I remember seeing it in one of Kenneth Lonergan's early movies
What nonsense.
with Mark Ruffalo. There was a scene between Ruffalo and Laura Linney in a restaurant, and there was a very awkward moment, an awkward silence. And he cut to a wide shot to give that silence space.
My emotions
And
are undried.
I remember being quite impressed by that.
The wildness in the blood I share with my father.
The idea of the dog eating the food is something that just came to us during the day.
We let the gift of
It's something the dog really did, and so we just kind of went along with it.
My mother was glamorous, but perhaps too widely loved.
My mother was glamorous, but perhaps too widely loved is a reference to the fact that his mother had many, many affairs, including possibly an affair with George's father. This is one of Gary's favourite scenes. Just the act of closing the door on Hitler's voice there. He always really responded to the fact that there's a scene without any dialogue in such a dialogue-heavy movie. I like the silence in this moment. Preparing himself. But it's not silent, obviously. You have the breath of Winston at the window, which amplifies the silence around him.
To join us, Neville, would you, Anthony. Obviously, we are in a dangerous situation, but I'm assured by the French Premier that while some German tank units have reached the sea, the situation generally seems to be well in hand. What news from Calais?
The garrison attacked, but was forced back and is now surrounded on all sides. They're being shelled and bombed mercilessly. Casualties are at 60%.
Prime Minister, the question of peace talks.
Oh, we must hold on yet. Signal only that we intend.
I think we spent 2 weeks shooting the scenes in this room. And so they were a very intense 2 weeks, and the room was kind of airless, and everyone kept on forgetting their lines, and it was a tough 2 weeks.
Therefore, avoid being dragged down a slippery slope with talk of a negotiated peace.
Slippery slope. The only...
I suspect Italy and Germany
The only slippery
wish to get us so deeply involved in negotiations that we should be unable to turn back.
Nonsense. Bastianini informed me.
I propose...
The only slippery
Would you
slope.
stop interrupting me while I am interrupting you? When I chose...
Again, it's about finding those overlaps, finding the high tempo, and then earning those pauses.
Halifax, the approach you propose is...
I kind of hate dialogue that's really slow and lugubrious. I want people to be talking at a good pace. And then, as I say, you can earn your pauses.
What is the end?
There's another good pause coming up in a second after Europe is lost.
There's nothing heroic in going down fighting if it can be avoided. Nothing even remotely patriotic in death.
It's about finding those rhythms.
Firmly on the former. Nothing inglorious in trying to shorten a war that we are clearly losing.
Losing! Europe is still...
Europe is lost. And before our forces are wiped out completely, now is the time to negotiate in order to obtain the best conditions possible.
So you can really emphasize points, you know. If you're going too slow with dialogue, if there's too many pauses, then everything carries the same weight. But if you're hitting a good tempo and then you break that tempo with a pause, whatever that line is will carry much more weight.
Wooed! Appeased! Good God, give it a minute.
It's about kind of finding the musicality of the scene.
You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!
Prime Minister! Winston! Winston! Yesterday you gave permission.
What permission?
For me to meet Bastianini.
The idea of shooting this little scene in the airlock, or in the, in this little antechamber, only really came on the day.
Oh, don't be absurd, Edward. I need you. You know I do.
Not stand by.
And again, it creates that kind of tight claustrophobia. But literally, the space wasn't big enough for me to get close up, so I had to play it in one.
How dare you! Our troops were chewing barbed...
And now Halifax has touched a raw nerve.
Opening a second front, outflanking the Turks was a serious military idea, and it could have damn well worked if the admirals and the first...
The moment where his voice goes up. There, element of surprise. That kind of panic in his voice as he says element of surprise, I think, is the thing that gives away the fact that he's lost the argument. He's lost the argument by losing his temper. And they're just finding another box to put Churchill in, always looking for these boxes.
I told him. It shook him.
Imagine it did.
Gave him 24 hours. I don't expect he'll agree. So I shall resign first. You then follow. That's critical if we're to trigger a vote of no confidence in the House. I shall announce it. The King will back us.
I like setting that scene in the gents' toilet. There's something quite, schoolboyish about it.
Prime Minister, I wonder if we might schedule you to address the Outer Cabinet?
Today, the Admiralty have made an order requesting all owners of self-propelled pleasure craft between 30 and 100 feet in length to send all particulars to the Admiralty immediately if they have...
This was an interesting scene to shoot. To try and create the tension. Remember, we played lots of music on set on this day. I think we played Max Richter's album, The Blue Notebooks, which, if you know it, or if you don't know it, is a great album and is worth listening to.
At Dunkirk have the greatest possible admiration for your splendid stand. Your evacuation, however...
And here Elizabeth realises that she's writing someone's death warrant.
I repeat, will not take place.
If she types those words, men will die. And the responsibility of that. I like the idea at this little section of the film, this and the next couple of scenes, that I really don't like Churchill here. I've tried to create a kind of a cruelty, really, almost.
May I be excused?
You may not.
He's a murderer.
What is this about?
No one tells us anything. It's all classified.
And so I asked Gary to be as
It's worse than knowing nothing.
kind of uncompassionate as possible in this and the following scene.
What would you like to know?
I didn't want to see into his eyes.
How many men will survive?
And she hates him for it at that moment.
Come with me.
I'm not allowed in the map room.
Well, you are now.
Prime Minister.
At ease, gentlemen. Now.
He's kind of cut himself off emotionally because he has to do what he's doing. I mean, that's the horrible responsibility of leadership.
West, where the garrison under Brigadier Nicholson is drawing fire and delaying the German advance on Dunkirk. At both points, our troops are encircled. Now, we are still trying to clear Dunkirk harbour of wrecked ships so that we can then land the boats we need to get our boys off those beaches, but enemy aircraft is attacking us constantly. Our only hope in Dunkirk is thick cloud cover.
He's kind of justifying his actions to her, defending himself.
And even then, I am told we will need her.
There was another take of this where Gary did it much more compassionately, and I tried to get him to
Courage.
be harder.
Courage. General.
How long have they got? If we don't rescue them?
1, maybe 2 days.
News from...
And there's an edge of guilt to his actions there. And now Elizabeth's going to become the God's Eye. She's complicit in these actions.
Brigadier Nicholson, the telegram, sir.
Yes, sir, chaps.
This single shot was done on a piece of kit called a stable eye, which was new to me, and I really enjoyed using it on this movie. It's a tiny piece of kit that I could sort of travel back with, kind of handheld, through this location. And then about now, it's been clipped onto a cable. And then now, the grips are letting go of the camera, and the camera's being pulled up on that cable. And we're in camera all the way until here. And now we're going into a CGI world. And then here, this is completely CGI. And Calais fallen, the number of dead, so we know that time's moved forward and that Nicholson and his men are dead. And here we have the culprit, the murderer. And so he's lit kind of like a murderer.
Go to bed, Pig.
And he feels like a murderer. Originally, this was, a nighttime scene, and then the following scene, when he calls Dover, was a separate scene, a daytime scene, and then I had the idea of playing it as one scene. And so, we think it's night, and then at the end of the scene, it's revealed to be morning. I kind of enjoy playing with expectations, with the audience's expectations.
Give me Ramsey. 1 moment. Bertie?
Sir?
What's been the response?
It will take time. It's too
suitor, Judge.
How many votes so far?
Winston, it will take time.
The request for civilian votes, Bertie, was not a request. It was an order!
And so then it's revealed to be dawn as he opens the shutters. And so ever since that radio address, when he lied to the people, he's been descending towards the breakdown.
Let's speak to her.
And here he's begun to lose his words.
3 p.m.
3 p.m., sir.
His brain is getting more scattered, and it's beginning to short circuit.
The war captain.
The mania is short circuiting.
Sir, from Lord Gort in France, sir.
Belgium has fallen. They will surrender at midnight. France will soon follow suit.
What I tried to do from here on, I mean, I've kind of tried to do it throughout the rest of the film, but certainly from here on, I've tried to just get as inside Churchill's head as possible. That it's all very subjective storytelling.
There's a large fleet of fast motorboats, possibly up to 200.
We rarely leave his face from here on.
By these means, a considerable force of the enemy could be landed at many points on the coast simultaneously, with airborne raids inland. We do not feel that by naval or air action we could prevent such a landing.
Could you repeat that?
We must prepare for the imminent invasion of our island. We must prepare for the...
Running everything backwards there.
We recommend that the country...
Something I did in Atonement, actually, running a scene sequence backwards. Wishing that you could turn back time.
Should be mobilized without a moment's...
Which I always enjoy, you know, the idea of time and time-based media, film, sculpting in time.
Thank you, General. Let all preparations be made.
Let the record state I have received word from the Italian embassy in London. Italy is prepared to mediate a resolution between Britain, its allies, and Germany.
Perhaps, then, the time...
There's an element of the kind of willful child about this moment.
Is when...
refusing to be... refusing to do as he's told.
An unsuccessful attempt
Petulant child.
This country.
Unsuccessful?
Then you make me know
look there.
Winston! Winston!
Again, it all just comes back round to Winston
To grasp the realities of
in that shot.
how precarious our position is.
All these people talking at him when we focus on him.
Out. Terms must be struck.
Anthony.
His last ally has deserted him there. And so he has nowhere to go.
Then it seems we...
And his dialogue at this moment is kind of verbatim.
We have no choice but to at least consider the path of negotiation. If Hitler's peace terms...
And this is the darkest hour.
Overlordship of Central Europe, return certain German colonies, and if he will leave us our independence, then I'd be grateful to get out of our present difficulties. But it was unlikely that he will make such an offer. But if I were told what the German terms were. But then I'd be prepared to consider them.
And that's entirely contrary to everything we think we know about Churchill. Certainly, he never mentioned this in his own history of the war, his biography. His biographers very, very rarely mention it, and if they do, you know, in the 3 volumes of the great Churchill biography, it's given, you know, a paragraph.
In recent days...
So now he's lost his words, and without words, Winston Churchill is nothing.
Whether it was
because words were his greatest weapon.
part of my duty. Pardon my duty.
I specifically had this set, this little office of Elizabeth Layton's, built like a corridor with the wide-angle lens in mind to create even more claustrophobia, knowing that I was going to set this scene in this room.
Whether it was...
Will that be all for tonight, sir?
Whether it was part of my duty entering into negotiations with
And again, just trying to find ways of bringing Hitler into the movie so that we understand who the enemy is. Bringing Hitler's speech in here in the background was an idea that we came up with in post-production in the cutting room.
Savage.
I think this is one of my favourite scenes of the movie, actually.
House painter! Where were we? Well?
I didn't understand you, sir. Are you,
Where?
You were mumbling?
Mumbling.
I love how high his voice goes on that mumbling, like a child.
The right words.
I love her bravery in this scene. Her ability to actually talk to him.
Together like you.
Oh. Your bow.
My brother?
Where is he now?
He was falling back on Dunkirk. But he never made it.
I like the idea that at this moment in the film kind of stops. That the whole march of time and this kind of urgent rhythm that we've been developing throughout, this kind of political thriller, just falls apart and stops. Again, we've kind of built to this pause in the film. And hopefully earned it. Well done, Lily.
Shall I read back what we have?
And suddenly she's kind of like the parent in the relationship. Her job is to look after him
I have come to wonder in recent days
so that he can look after all of us.
whether it was my duty to consider entering into negotiations
With?
To be cared for.
With?
And those motifs, the kind of overhead shot motifs, this idea, the God's eye view of mere mortals. Now Winston is reduced to a mere mortal. He's been the god throughout the film. And now he's the little mortal. And so this is a point of view, perhaps God's point of view, or perhaps just the audience's point of view.
Never being here anymore.
History's point of view.
Whether it's because I'm no longer alive or that the palace itself is gone.
Canada. You must decide, sir. You could rule in exile.
Truly, is that to be my fate?
I like the idea that George VI will do anything, even support Churchill, rather than
you know something,
go to
I'm
Canada.
In this moment, feeling angry. Bloody angry.
Darling. Winston, darling.
I was nervous about this scene, or rather, I was nervous about shooting this scene in this location. I wondered whether it might be too much, whether it might be better just to set it by a fire in the living room or something. But at the same time,
My darling, you have the full weight of the
it felt like a good representation of what was going on internally for him.
These inner battles have actually trained you for this very moment. You are strong because you are imperfect. You are wise because you have doubts.
That's one of the key lines in the movie for me. You're wise because you have doubts. Something I believe quite strongly.
Which key? Our key.
The idea that doubt is actually a positive thing rather than a negative.
Mr. Churchill, I hope you can forgive the late hour, but your wife thought tonight would be a good time. Shall we sit?
First time we've seen George out of that room.
Something to drink, perhaps.
Again, this kind of awkwardness between these two men. I like the idea that you're not quite sure whether George has come round to reprimand Churchill or what he's doing there.
It appears that the prospect of a peace deal has increased dramatically.
The War Cabinet are drafting a letter to Mussolini, asking him to broker talks with Herr Hitler.
I tried to get him to do that stand-up as kind of violently as possible to increase the tension.
I should like to know your mind.
It would be helpful to know yours first.
I should like to know it myself. Nations which go down fighting rise again, and those that surrender tamely are finished.
Belgium?
Collapsed.
Norway?
Holland.
And that pacing up and down reminds me of a kind of interrogation.
Fear, panic.
And you? Are you not afraid?
Trying to increase the threat of George at this moment, so that when he sits on the bed next to him and gives him his support, it's more of a relief and more of a shock.
For the campaign of resistance has collapsed. Later today, I will address the House accordingly.
You have my support.
was important that we didn't see George say that line the first time he says it.
You have my support.
So that we're not quite sure whether we've heard it or not.
I confess, I had some reservations about you at first, but while some in this country...
I don't know why I was affected so much when I first read that moment, but that was certainly one of the moments that made me want to make the film.
That brute heart is worthy of all of our trust. We shall work together. You shall have my support at any hour. Beat the buggers.
I will go to Parliament.
That at Churchill's lowest moment,
Party.
he's given that support, and that actually it's that doubt
You once gave me some
that he can turn into something positive, and that will take him
Let them in.
through the coming months and years of war.
They usually do. But tell them the truth, unvarnished. If invasion is imminent, if our troops in France are lost, they must be prepared.
On certain matters, I have very few people with whom I can talk frankly.
Perhaps now we have each other.
And I no longer scare you.
And the shot from behind them was one that Bruno suggested, and I'm very, very glad he did. I wasn't envisioning it myself, and he suggested it, and I think it was a very, very useful shot.
We are ready. More or less.
More or less what, Bertie? Give me a number.
In total, 860 vessels.
The biggest civilian fleet ever assembled. Operation Dynamo waits on your command.
Admiral, initiate Dynamo. And may God watch over them all.
So you'll remember me talking about that shot of the crowd outside Winston's window at the beginning of the film. Well, here we have its twin, except now there's more distress in the streets. Those masks I actually just saw online and had someone make them up for me. Winston's looking for his matches to light his cigar, and he can't find his matches. And I quite like the idea, this was a kind of rather late idea of mine, that he can't find his matches in this scene. And when he's in the underground in a minute, it's because he wants a light that he starts talking to everyone. So therefore, losing the matches changed the world. Quick condensing of time there, him jumping out the car, so after those slow shots there, we pick up the pace and time, skip through. The camera moved as the window came into view of the elevator there. The people did not move, and then I got them all to do a little jump to make it look like the elevator came to an abrupt stop.
Do you know how to use this?
I was very impressed with this young girl. I thought she did a really, really good job.
Westminster, the District Line East, one stop.
District Line East, one stop. Yeah, that doesn't sound so hard.
No, sir.
This scene, when I do Q&As, people always ask whether this scene really happened or not. Winston going into the underground. And it did not. It's a kind of way of bringing into the film the true facts, which are that he was studying the polls and seeing that the working classes were very much supportive of fighting on. And also the fact that he used to go AWOL and disappear for periods of time. There's his matchbox. And that he used to kind of take the counsel of people. And also that he would often cry in public as well. So it's kind of a dramatization of the truth, but not actually fact.
This is the underground!
I tried to cast these characters. I cast them very carefully, and I tried to cast them from people from all over the empire, from Londoners to Northerners to Irish to the Caribbean. I wanted them to be as broad a representation of people as possible.
Does anyone have a match? Thank you. Thank you. What are you all staring at?
So there you go. If he hadn't got a match off that bloke, he wouldn't have started talking to them, and therefore history would be very different, possibly.
Wilson, sir. And what do you do, Mr. Wilson?
Bricklayer, sir.
Ah, bricklayer. We shall have great need of bricklayers soon. Our business will be
It
looking...
was a difficult scene to shoot, this one. I tried to kind of... It's a sort of wish fulfillment scene. It has an idealism to it.
How old?
5 months, sir. He looks like you.
Madam, all babies look like me. Well, what is your name?
I did literally try and cast a baby who looked like Winston Churchill.
It's a pleasure.
Abigail. Abigail Walker.
Marcus Peters.
Marcus Peters.
Agnes Dillane.
Agnes.
Morris Baker.
Mr. Baker.
Alice Simpson.
Alice.
The idea of her beret and her costume is that she's a socialist.
Well, my mother was a Jerome. I expect we're closely related. Please, sit, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Baker. So, how are you all bearing up?
It was difficult in the cut, this scene, actually, to try and make it as naturalistic as possible, or rather realistic as possible.
Let me ask you something that's been weighing on my mind. Perhaps you can provide me with an answer. You, the British people, what is your mood? Is it confident? Confident?
Yeah.
How confident?
Very. Some people say it's a lost cause.
Lost causes are the only ones worth fighting for.
Too right.
Yes, now let me ask
I
you...
like the idea that they feel like their love is a lost cause, and that's why they identify with that line.
Those streets above, what would you do?
Fight.
Fight the fascists.
Fight them with anything we can lay our hands on.
Broom handles if we must, street by street.
They'll never take Piccadilly.
Never take Piccadilly, indeed. And what if I put it to you all that we might, if we ask nicely, get very favourable terms from...
Try and invest all of these characters with lives beyond the scene. You know, any one of them you could follow and make a film of their story.
Never. Never. Never.
Never. Never. Well, you will never give up.
No, never.
Then out spake brave Horatius, captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds? For the
ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods.
I like her pride. His girlfriend's pride there, the smile.
Are you crying?
As I said, he did used to cry in public a lot. He was quite a blubber, famously so, when he visited victims of the Blitz and so on.
What stop is this?
It's Westminster, sir.
Westminster. It's my stop.
That lovely actress with the baby couldn't stop crying all day. So now he has the mandate of the people to go and pursue the policy of war. In this shot, he's actually walking over a plaque that marks the spot where Churchill was laid to rest, or laid out in state, rather.
Prime Minister! Sir! The War Cabinet! Sir, they're waiting.
I'm due to address the Outer Cabinet.
When?
Now. I haven't spoken to them since the formation of the new government.
So this is a real scene. That day he went and spoke to his outer cabinet.
I'm about to speak to my Outer Cabinet in my rooms, and I extend the invitation to any of you who would care to join them.
And it's a very famous meeting, and at that meeting he gained the support to continue the policy of war.
This afternoon, I shall address the House on the matter of our nation's security. At this very moment, the War Cabinet is drafting papers that lay out a willingness to enter into peace talks with Herr Hitler via his lackey, Mussolini.
Churchill, throughout the war, either referred to Hitler as Herr Hitler or as that man.
Part of my duty to consider entering into negotiations with that man. But then I...
Most of the scene is this close-up. It's one shot. And Gary basically nailed it in this single close-up. So I've used that close-up throughout the scene and occasionally cut away to the crowd or where I might need to.
Simpson and Miss Margaret Jerome. Brave, good, true citizens of this kingdom, and they argued strongly that it was idle to think if we tried to make peace now, we should get better terms than if we fought it out. The Germans, Mr. Baker felt, would demand, in the name of disarmament, our naval bases and much else, and I think he's right. Jesse Sutton, speaking for many, believes we would then become a slave state. A British government, which would be Hitler's puppet. A government set up under Mosley or some such person. And I joined with them in asking a further question, a question I now put to you. Where should we be at the end of all that? Some might benefit. I mean, the powerful might be able to parley good terms, preserved in their country readouts out of sight of the swastika flying over Buckingham Palace, over Windsor, and they're draped on these very buildings.
Never!
So I come to you. I come to you to learn your minds.
This is quite a wide-angle lens on this close-up, and so when he moves in and out like there, the distance feels quite big when he brings his hand down like that. that's just Gary working the crowd there.
It appears to be your will also that if this Long Island story of ours is to end at last, then let it end only when each one of us lies choking in his own blood upon the ground.
And there, I love the way he kind of leans into the camera and it almost just becomes a close-up of his mouth.
And when I asked to know their minds, there occurred a demonstration which, considering...
I had to make sure that that last scene didn't have too much weight and that you didn't feel like he'd won in that scene, that you left a little bit of powder for the final speech in the House of Commons.
Both sides of the House is ready to be killed quite soon and have all his...
Again, with this shot, you know, originally I'd been thinking about just tracking in and then cutting to his point of view of Halifax and Chamberlain. And then as I'm working on the shot, I discover the pan
to express their...
and how one can do it in one shot.
There shall be no negotiated peace. And you must each do now, as you see fit. If you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I believe I am due to address Parliament.
And now he finds his matchbox.
I have yet to write a word of my speech. There's the buckets. Tidy.
Sir.
Going through a wall again.
Miss Slate.
Sir?
I am in need of...
Love this close-up of Lily here.
We must both now resign, force a vote of no confidence.
Well, let us go to the Commons first, join our colleagues, then speak after the Prime Minister's address.
Originally, there wasn't a line in this scene, and
Here is a woman who's always tired. She lives her life, but too much is required.
and Kristen wanted to say that. Clementine always used to say that that should be her epitaph. This shot always reminded me of the famous shot in Titanic, where you track in on the car and then see her hand hit the window.
The Prime Minister.
And here are the words
Turning once again to the question
that will change the world.
I would observe that there has never been a period in all the...
It was a very, very exciting day this day, shooting this scene. And Gary was a little bit late coming to set, only, 7 or 8 minutes late. But in the meantime, I started the day having all the extras arrive on set and then playing Hey Jude by the Beatles. And 600 men raised their arms in the air and sang along. And it was a really special opening to a very special day. And then as Gary arrived, the crowd went wild and Gary felt supported, and that's really vital to the fulfillment of the scene, is that Gary felt supported by all of these men in this room.
If necessary, alone. At any rate, that is what we are going to try.
There's an element of melancholy in that cut when he says alone, and then we cut to Clementine alone. And there's going to be sacrifice on both their sides.
Parliament and the nation.
I tried to add little bits of melancholy, or so it's not too sweet. Nothing's perfect. That shot is actually taken from a completely different scene, from the scene when Winston first meets the king.
To the most of their strength. Even though large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of the Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end.
It's amazing how prescient this speech feels now.
In France,
with the rise of the far right
on the seas and oceans,
across Europe and America.
with growing confidence and growing strength in the air, we shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields.
We shall fight them in the streets.
We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
One of the greatest speeches ever written. One of the greatest political speeches ever written. That little moment where she says, and if, and he has her support, is the moment when shooting this scene that I got very emotional. I find that relationship between Elizabeth and Winston really affecting.
We're on the seas, armed.
And here he's about to talk about America, and he uses his words very, very carefully. He never really brings up God in his speeches, but here,
with all its power and might,
when he refers to America, he uses God because he knows that America is listening, and he knows what a religious country America is, and so he's being very manipulative because he knows the only way Britain will win the war is by bringing America in. So from this point, or certainly from the point of the Battle of Britain, his whole purpose was to make sure that America came in and supported Britain in the defeat of fascism.
Changed your mind?
Those who never change their mind never change anything.
What just happened? Immobilized the English language and sent it into battle.
I love Gary's walk there. It's like a right South London geezer. Okay, well, I hope that you have gotten something from me yabbering away. I hope I haven't bored you or indeed put you to sleep. If I have, I hope you've had a nice sleep. And thank you once more for watching the movie and for getting engaged. All right, cheers now. See you on the next one. Bye.